Hey everyone, welcome to the ServiceNow Star. On today's session, I have a 50 questions on ServiceNow CIS Data Foundation, CMDB CSDM exam certification. This is really going to help you to pass your CIS Data Foundation CMDB CSDM exam, which ServiceNow make it a prerequisite for many of CIS implementation exams. So brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here. We got 50 flashcard questions, so I'll bring in the question right here, and then from there we'll provide the correct answer. All right, the first question is, what is the focus of CSDM Foundation domain? What is the focus of CSDM Foundation domain? Now the focus of CSDM Foundation domain is primarily like locations, groups, and users. These are the foundational data that you are need to configure when you work on your CSDM. Okay, location, groups, and users. These are foundational because they're gonna be used in multiple things. Let's say location, you can use it in your ITSM. Location you can use or on your customer service management, CSM. Groups, of course, every module in ServiceNow use groups and also users. All right, let's move on to the second question. Now, second one is, what is the primary goal of the CSDM crawl stage? All right, crawl stage. What is the primary goal? It's a little tricky, right? Here, crawl stage mainly focused on mapping business application to the application services. So if you say that, you are absolutely correct. Mapping the business application, the business apps to the application service. That's the main purpose of the crawl phase. Okay, crawl stage in CSDM. All right, we're gonna move on to the third one. Which domain focuses on the technical service offering? Technical service offering. Main domain, the main focus on the technical service offering is mainly focused on the work domain. Okay, it's not crawl, it's a work domain. So the work domain is mainly the technical service offerings. You gotta remember that. Okay, moving on to the fourth one. Defining run domain in CSDM. Defining run domain in CSDM. All right, defining run domain in CSDM. What is it? Okay, it's mainly connecting the services to the underlying infrastructure. Yes, connecting services to the underlying infrastructure. That's what the run domain in CSDM stand. Now, the sixth one right here is, what does IRE data refresh rule do? IRE data refresh do. IRE data refresh do. So it really prevents update if any data is older than the current. So that's the main thing. Make sense? So that's what the IRE data refresh rule do. It's gonna prevent any data is older than the current data, preventing that update. Okay, because you already have an updated data. If that update, okay, if that new data is older than the current data, then it's gonna prevent update. Gonna move on. What is CI attestation? CI attestation is, it's a manual verification that a CI exists and is correct. That's what CI attestation. Okay, if a manual verification that a CI exists and is correct, that's what CI attestation stand for in CMDB CSDM. Seventh one, what is data source precedence means? Precedence. Okay, precedence, that's a keyword. Precedence. This is a priority ranking of a source. Let's say you have in a discovery, Excel, and so on and so on and so on. You may have different data source. Now, which one have a higher precedence than the other one? All right, so you're putting a priority. So in this case, we are making discovery as a precedence than Excel, which means discovery data has a higher priority than the Excel data, which is a manual data. Okay, so that's what precedence in ServiceNow stand for. I'm gonna move on. All right, let's move on. Data precedence, covered that. All right, what is staleness rule in CMDB correctness? Staleness. What is the staleness rule in CMDB correctness? CI is not updated within a specific time frame. You call them staleness. Okay, if those data are not, the CI data are not updated, that's what staleness really refer in CMDB correctness. All right, what table store? Business application. Okay, what table store business application? Yes, business application are stored under CMDB underscore CI underscore business app. Okay, CMDB CI business app. That's the table where the business applications store. So any business application that you have in ServiceNow must be stored under the CMDB CI business app. CMDB CI business app. All right, let's move on. What is the suggested relationship table? Suggested relationship. Again, it's a clue right here. Suggested relationship. So what is the table for suggested relationship? It's CMDB real type suggest. CMDB real type suggest. CMDB real type suggest is a table for suggested relationship. Suggested relationship. That's the 11th question, and then 12 we move on. What is the purpose of dynamic CI group? Dynamic CI group. Dynamic CI group is to group CI based on a filter or CMDB group. To group CIs based on a filter or CMDB group is what the purpose of dynamic CI groups. All right, what is the role of CMDB Data Manager? The purpose of CMDB Data Manager. The purpose of CMDB Data Manager is to automate the CI lifecycle from retire, archive, and delete, all these different kinds of life, okay, CI lifecycle. So to automate the CI lifecycle, maybe a CIs get retired or archived or deleted, all that is going to be managed using CMDB Data Manager. CMDB Data Manager. Okay, so it's a lifecycle management in ServiceNow. CMDB Data Manager. That's the main purpose. Okay, what is business capability? You may hear it many times. Business capability in ServiceNow means what the business does. Like for example, a payroll management. Okay, payroll management is a good example of business, what the business does. So if you think of the business capability, could be payroll, could be IT, or any capability that you can think of. That's what a business capability really stands. 15. What is attribute score in completeness? Attribute score in completeness. It's a percentage of CI having a value for a specific field. Okay, that's what is attribute. The percentage of CI having a value for a specific field. That's why we call it attribute score in completeness, because completeness is one of the key thing in CMDB. All right, what is technical service? Technical service. Technical service. What is technical service? Services used by IT to support your business service. Okay, technical service is a service used by IT to support Your business services, those are what we call it a technical service. Okay, let's gonna move more here. Now, what is the benefit of using CSDM? Yeah, what's the benefit? So why we use the benefit of CSDM? Okay, what's the benefit of CSDM? Benefit of CSDM. Very simple and basics, right? But the benefit of CSDM is standardized reporting and cross-platform capability. What is it? Cross-platform capability, right? You have this different platform capability across your organization, especially across ServiceNow. You have the ITSM, CSM, SPM, all of that they use. So you gotta standardize these foundational data. Okay, that's what really, so standardized reporting and also cross-platform capability is the main purpose of CSDM, Common Service Data Model. All right, let's move. Okay, what is the purpose of identification rule? Identification rule. So identification rule in ServiceNow CSDM CMDB, the main purpose of identification rule is to uniquely identify a CI to prevent duplicates. That's it. That's the main goal. Because duplicates are one of the headache of the CMDB. If you got duplicates, it's very difficult because you have, for example, a vulnerability, and to which CMDB CIS you're gonna tie it. If you have multiple CIs for a given vulnerability, all right, so it's gonna be difficult. So you gotta have clean those duplicates. Okay, uniquely identify a CI to prevent duplicate. That's the main purpose of identification rule. So you got that identification rule to set up so that you can prevent duplication. All right, gonna move on. What define an orphan CI? What's define an orphan CI? Okay, orphan. If a CI is become orphan, why? Because a CI that lacks a required relationship to another CI, that we call it orphan. It doesn't have a child, or it doesn't have upper stream and downstream. That we call it a CI is an orphan. Okay, orphan CI doesn't have any relationship to another CI. Perfect. Let's move. What is duplicate CI? I talked about orphan CI. Now duplicate CI in CMDB Health, and we also talk about how to prevent duplicate CIs. Okay, now it's a multiple record representing the same physical or logical entity. Now think about this. There's a vulnerability or security incident, and you have multiple CIs for it. How do you tie to it? It's very difficult. So you have to tie it to one entity. Okay, so that multiple record representing the same physical or logical entity will give you a duplicate, and that duplicate must be managed before it becomes too late. Make sense? So that's what a duplicate CI in ServiceNow. Okay, orphan CI. Yes, an orphan CI is a CI that doesn't have any relationship. Okay, what's the purpose of identification rule? To prevent a duplicate. Yes, to prevent duplicate. So that's how you prevent duplicate, by creating identification rule. All right, so we're gonna connect those together. What about CSDM abbreviated for? Earlier I talked about. Okay, CSDM stand for a Common Service Data Model. Common Service Data Model. What is service offering? Service offering. Business service talked about it. Now, what is service offering? Service offering is a specific variation of a service with a defined SLAs. Let's say if you offer a service on fixing a computer, okay? How long will it take to fix a computer? It has a SLA, its own service level agreement, right? So that's what a service offering. So you need to create a service offering for that. Okay, service offering. Service offering makes sense if it has a specific variation of service with a defined SLA. With a defined SLA, that's why we call it service offering. Which CSDM domain covers business capability? Business capability is covered under the foundation or fly domain, which is a mapping part. Okay, the mapping part of the fly part is the business capability. Great. What is cascade retire? Cascade retire. Cascade retire is a retiring dependent child CI when a parent is retired. Yes, cascade retire. When you retire a parent CI, it will cascade retire the child. Yes. Gotta make sure when you retire a CI, you have to double check before you click retire, because if you retire the parent, that will impact the child. So all the way down, the child CIs will be retired as well. So that's what retiring a dependent child CI when the parent is retired. That's called cascade retire. What is CMDB Query Builder? Okay, Query Builder. I love Query Builder. It's really great. Okay, in ServiceNow. Now, Query Builder is a visual tool to build complex CI relationship queries. Complex CI relationship queries. So you got a complex CI relationship from one CI to another. That really help you to create a relationship so you can query the data. And that's what we call it, CMDB Query Builder. Let's move. We are almost halfway. How does ServiceNow calculate the health score? How does ServiceNow calculate the health score? CMDB health score. How does ServiceNow calculate the health score? Yes, health score is calculated 100 minus the weight of failure. Okay, whatever weight of failure that you have is going to deduct from 100. That's how calculate the health score. Alright, what is the base table for all CIs and non-CIs? What is the base table? In ServiceNow, the base table is CMDB. CMDB is the base table for all ServiceNow because all are related CMDB CI. There is a child table that are connected to them. So CMDB is the base table. Identification Reconciliation Engine. What does IRE stand for? Yes, IRE is Identification Reconciliation Engine. What does CMDB Completeness metric measure? CMDB Completeness metric measure. What does CMDB Completeness metric measure? It require and recommend attributes that are populated. Required and recommended attributes that are populated. All right. What does fly domain optimize? Fly domain optimize the business value and investment portfolio alignment. Two things: the business value and investment portfolio alignment. So that's what the fly domain optimize. The fly domain optimize. What is dependent identification rule? Dependent identification rule. What is dependent identification rule? A rule where a CI identification depends on a parent CI. A rule where a CI identification depends on a parent CI. That's what a dependent identification rule. Dependent. What is Identification Engine API? Identification Engine. What is the Identification Engine API? It's a scriptable interface for IRE processing. scriptable interface for IRE processing. That's what Identification Engine API stands for. What is the base table for CI? All CIs. Yes, CMDB CI. CMDB CI is a base table for all CIs. What is remediation rule? Remediation rule. Remediation rule is an automated workflow to fix CMDB health issues. Got CMDB health issue? You have to create a remediation rule to fix those. Automated fix. Information object in CSDM. What is information object? Information object. It's a type of data being handled by an application. A type of data handled by an application is information object. Information object. Information object. Okay, as we move on, what is CSDM conceptual model? Conceptual model. CSDM conceptual model is a framework for how to use CMDB correctly. That's a framework. Okay, so using CSDM correctly, using CMDB correctly is CSDM conceptual model. Okay. What is crawl stage in CI relationship? Crawl. Yes, a business app consumes application service. We covered this earlier. Business app consumes an application service. What that is a crawl stage in ServiceNow. The 3 pillars of CMDB health. The 3 pillars of CMDB health. Yes, completeness, correctness, and compliance. The 3C, completeness, correctness, and compliance. What does multi-score CMDB allow? Multi-score CMDB allow. Multi-score allow retaining data from all sources for a single CI attribute. That's what multi-source CMDB. So you got multi-source CMDB. Maybe one come from CMDB, which is discovery. Another might come from Excel or manually or from another discoverable source, like for example vulnerability or SecApp or Splunk. And then when you create that kind of scenario, what we call it multi-source CMDB. Multi-source CMDB. Okay, what do reconciliation rule manage? Reconciliation rule help you manage the data sources, okay, which can update a specific CI attribute. Which can update specific CI attributes. That's what a reconciliation rule manager. Reconciliation rule manage. So help you to manage these different kinds of data sources. And then which one update which specific attribute. Make sense? Reconciliation rule. All right, what does RAN domain mapping connect? The RAN domain. The RAN domain, it's an app service to a technical service offering. Help you connect the app service, application service to a technical service. That's what the RAN domain mapping connect. What is the purpose of Lifecycle stage field? Lifecycle stage field. You know that to track current phase of the CI, whether it's operational or whether it is retired. And remember, if you retire a parent CI, it will retire all the child. It's called retire cascade. Okay, so the life cycle field, it's a critical field in CMDB which help you manage the track the current phase of the CI. Okay, moving on. What does compliance metrics track? Compliance metric track the CIs that fail to meet a specific audit or configuration standard. It's about compliance. Okay, moving on. Reclassification task. What's a reclassification task? It's a task to move a CI from one class to another class. Very simple. from one class to another class. If you move it, that's what reclassification rule stands for. What does CI Class Manager do? CI Class Manager. CI Class Manager is a centralized interface to manage CI classes and health. CI class and also health. If you put them in a centralized place to manage, that's what is the CI Class Manager. So if you go to ServiceNow and look for CI Class Manager, that really help you to manage your CI classes and also the health in a centralized interface. What about service mapping? What is service mapping? Very common question. Service mapping is a top-down discovery. It's not horizontal. Service mapping is a top-down discovery of CIs based on their entry point. What about horizontal discovery? All right, horizontal discovery. This is a scanning. When you scan the network to find CIs in their attribute, that's why we call it horizontal discovery. Another question I have, which one should come first? A horizontal discovery or a vertical discovery should come? The first one is the horizontal discovery. You have to scan first the network to find the CIs in their attribute, and then what you're gonna do is after that is mapping, the service mapping, okay, which is a vertical discovery. Which table store application services? App service, CMDB CI service auto, CMDB CI service auto. This store application service. What is relationship type? Relationship type is the nature of the link between two CI which runs on. Okay, that's what relationship type stand for. Relationship types, the nature of the link between two CIs like run on. Last but not least, what is normalization in CMDB? Normalization. Okay, we all know about vertical discovery, horizontal discovery, and now it's time to understand normalization. Okay, it's a standardizing field value for manufacturer, for example. You're standardizing a field value. When you standardize a given field value, for example, manufacturing, you are normalizing it. For example, manufacturer, right? What do you want it to be manufactured? You standardize that field value, the value. That's what normalization. So you gotta do normalization when you do CMDB data work. So clean up and so on. All right, everybody, that covers 50 important ServiceNow CIS Data Foundation data. These questions will really help you to pass your exam. These are only 50. This is the first episode. We'll be back on the next episode to cover another 50 more questions. And this is your Certified Technical Architect, Mohammed Rashid Kamal from the ServiceNow Store. Bye-bye, everybody.